guys have already been here between like 6 and 6:30. I think you guys got started today, so congratulations to everybody making it through another run, especially with it as nice and non-humid as it is this morning. Today we're going to talk about heart rate monitor, and for those of you that weren't here last week, I did receive a few emails, so continue to email me and we'll send you as much information about last week as possible. If you have any questions about last week, please stick around and ask questions because I want to make sure you guys understand it. The discussion and the integration of the heart rate monitor is going to be what we talk about today. And even if you didn't go buy one, there's ways that we can calibrate intensity without a heart rate monitor. It's just not as precise, and there's a pretty large margin of error because, as you can see with the heat and humidity, for those of you that train with the heart rate monitor now, you can see a difference when it's hot and humid. You know, the same pace might be 10 or 15 beats higher. And like we spoke about last week, if you just blow that off and go, well, I'm just going to suck it up and push hard, you're going to go down eventually, okay? The heat and humidity is just like your car. You've got a temperature gauge, it's telling you what's going on inside the engine. Gets too hot, things go wrong, okay? Gas gauge goes to E, eventually you're sitting on the side of the road. Well, it's not any different than what you're dealing with out here, okay? So I know, like I told you last time, there's a lot of people that argue and try to dismiss a heart rate monitor. It's the most foolish thing you could ever do, okay? Because no matter how fit you are, if you don't know what's going on inside your chest, your heart, you have no idea what's going on. Remember what we talked about last week? There's all kinds of stress. If you're dehydrated, fatigued, hungry, all of that's going to manifest itself in your heart rate. So if you start, I would challenge you to test my theories. Stay up all night long, okay, and then go for a run and watch what your starting heart rate is because you're tired. And then what ends up happening is you get the anxiety of the race and, oh my gosh, we're running 20 and we've got all this other stuff going on. There's all that anxiety, okay? You go, well, so how's that relevant? If you're going to start a 10 or a 12-mile run, whatever your long run's going to be, okay, if the heart rate's already elevated the first mile and you think you're going to push through it, where are you going to be in an hour? Crying, frustrated, on the side, what happened, everything went wrong, and it's so avoidable. That's the big key, is it's the most powerful tool because it has no emotion. It's just a number, but it's telling you everything of what's going on inside. Now, one of the things that I want you guys to think about, maintain a daily food log. I know that seems tedious, but unless you dramatically eat something different every single week, your food log in a week is going to be about the same every week thereafter. Write down what time you ate, what you ate, and approximate how much. Please don't get a gram counter out and start weighing your beans and your nuts and all. That's crazy. Just, you know, I had a handful of this or I had a burger of that or whatever. Because if you come out here and you have a fantastic run, you might want to know what you ate. If you had a horrible run, you might want to know what you ate. Because on the morning of the race, I told you this last week, that's the number one question, the week of the race. What should I eat? How much should I drink? When? Test it now. Test it now. Even on your quote-unquote shorter one. Well, my long run today, what was the longest everybody ran? 6, 8? 6. Okay. So, what did you run last week?
7.
Okay. So you have two bases of comparison, and as they get progressively longer, like, again, I tend to be a little bit anal, bring a scale, weigh yourself before and after. What is your sweat rate? If you lost 9 or 10 pounds and you only weigh 100 pounds, that's a significant percentage. You only want to have 1 to 2% body loss during a run. That's your replenishment goal. But you definitely should lose something. If you gain weight during a run, you consume too much fluid. And you run a case called hyponatremia, where you literally dilute your blood, the sodium level in the blood. And unfortunately, hyponatremia can kill you. Okay? Dehydration, you'll usually start cramping. Your calves will go crazy, your hamstrings will go nuts, your vision will go blurry, your arms, you'll start to get goosebumps. Okay, there's enough things that'll tell you something's wrong. When you overhydrate, you'll actually start acting as if you're inebriated. Your balance goes off, okay? And if you guys remember that Atlanta radio water drinking contest where the lady actually died, okay? There were 2 girls, one was in a coma and the other one ended up dying, okay? Overhydrating is an issue. It's a big issue. In Florida, we tend to think most about dehydration, but you have to look at both ends of the scale, okay? So that leads us to the heart rate monitor, because knowing what your sweat rate is and knowing what you've eaten and how well you feel, the biggest question that you have to bounce it against now is how hard, notice I don't care about the word fast, time per mile is irrelevant, okay? Even if you can run a 7-minute mile, great. Your heart rate still is going to dictate how fast you get across that finish line at a 7-minute pace. If you're running a 15-minute pace, heart rate still dictates everything, Okay, if you're running or walking a 20-minute mile, heart rate still dictates whether or not you're going to cross the finish line. Okay? So, there's one thing I want you guys to think about first and foremost is when we look at intensity levels, remember what we said last week, it dictates whether you're using fat as a primary fuel source or stored sugar. Okay? I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Protein at the most is going to give you, these represent your percentage of energy. Okay? In a perfect clinical setting, protein at the most is going to provide you about 15% of your calories. Calorie is just essentially what produces your energy when you're running. That's it. Okay? So what we don't really pay much attention to protein because most of us do a good job with it. If you're a strict vegetarian, then the protein issue is something that we want to take a look at. Okay? But this is the number we're looking at right here. The rest of your energy, 85% of your energy comes from a combination of carbohydrates and fat. Okay, don't make it complicated. Your body stores sugar in the form of glycogen in your liver and your muscles. And people get lost. They go, wait, sugar, glycogen, two different things. Nope. You consume sugar and it stores as glycogen. So don't let the periodicals like mislead you, okay? When you go to exercise, your energy is pulled from either your liver or your muscles. Your brain is getting fed by its liver. The muscles are feeding the exercise, okay? The big question comes in is, where am I getting those calories from? Is it coming from carbs or stored fat? Now, I put this scale here. This is, I call my integer line of energy. Nobody's ever exercising at 20%. It's just an exaggeration, okay? And then here's your 100%. How'd you guys like track the other night? Anybody find it difficult? Did you guys run harder than you normally do? Okay. So what happened is you got above 50% effort, which may be your cruise speed out here, and then you start getting closer to 100%. Would anybody say they hit 100%? Okay. What I want you to understand is staying out here at 100% seems great on paper. Want to run fast? Just sprint. You know, it's like I've got a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and last night my little guy ran his first 5K at Trotters, and it rained as you guys saw. We were in mud up to our ankles the whole time. His whole thing during the entire race, all he kept saying was, well, if Bolt was racing, he would have been done X amount of minutes ago. And as I keep trying to explain to him, only for the first straightaway, and then he would have had to walk the last part of the race because he can't go that far. And that's what I want you to understand is you're no different than Usain Bolt or any of these top marathoners, okay? You've only got 60 to 90 minutes of stored sugar in your liver and your muscles. That's it. So unless you think you can finish your distance of race in less than 90 minutes, you've got to start looking at nutrition and your heart rate, because the faster you go, the more sugar you're going to burn up. Well, I just said to you, you've only got 60 to 90 minutes to begin with. So if you burn it up quicker, you get in your car and you drive it on the floor, wide open, 140 miles an hour down the interstate, how fast is your gas gauge going to go to E? No matter what you're driving, okay? This energy matrix is exactly the same thing. Now, there are some of you that'll say, oh, you don't understand, I've got all this belly fat, I could go for forever. How many times have we seen that in periodicals? The average body has enough stored body fat to run 2 marathons. I've yet to see someone do it. Seriously, I mean, it's such a silly comment. Now, the reason why they say that, and don't get hung up, a gram of fat stored will yield 9 calories of energy. Stored sugar will only yield 4. So think about it. Fat gives you twice as much energy, 4 to 9. But the whole ideology that you could go run a marathon on stored fat is absurd. Because of what I said to you last week, you cannot burn stored fat without the presence of sugar. That's why I refer to this as an energy matrix. You're getting your calories from someplace, which is usually a combination of these two. Okay? Does that make sense? Now, when we get out there on the open road and we're wearing a heart rate monitor, what we need to figure out is, where are we on this matrix? Am I running at 85% effort? Am I running at 45? That's why I said to you last week, please don't go home and look up max heart rate, 220 minus your age, plus or minus your resting heart rate. As I said to you last week, I've seen that have as high as a 50% margin of error. 50%. Okay? When Wendy Chioji lived here, I did all her stuff with her during the breast cancer and all that. Okay? And if anybody knows Wendy, she's very, very short. She has a max heart rate of almost 200. Okay? I was training another gentleman that was tall like yourself, almost literally he was 7'1". His max heart rate is 153. Same age, completely different body types, and you would think bigger person, higher heart rate. Because the body's got to distribute blood further. So it just goes to show how it turns the whole idea upside down. So what I want you guys to do when you guys are at the track, when you guys are doing your quote-unquote hard runs, I want you to wear your heart rate monitor and start to see what